Welcome to the Sunday Reach by Dominicans, India. Let me begin by reminding ourselves a common experience or phenomena that we see around us. I have seen parents coming and telling me about their children. They did not get very good mark in the colleges, but they tried to get in a very prestigious college with a very good course with a high fees. But these children, after enrolling themselves to the course in a college, they go on their own way. They bunk the classes, they go out with their friends. Sometimes some of them are getting addicted to the drugs, and at the end they fail miserably in the course. They don't achieve their objective. It is very clear that unless they focus on their study with a disciplined mind and also with certain regulations in their friendships and activities, they will never be able to achieve their objective. In today's Gospel, Jesus brings about two similar situations of this kind. The first one is an owner is going to build a tower. And Jesus says that unless that owner sits down and count the cost of that tower, he may fail. He may not be able to build the tower if he does not have proper resources, money and personnel. In a similar way, there is also another parable that he has said that is about a king who is planning to go on a war against another king who is his enemy. Before he goes on the war, he has to sit and assess his strengths and weaknesses, his strategies, his personnel. If he doesn't do that, most probably he will not win the battle. Why does Jesus give these two parables? This is to speak about discipleship. We need to remember that the context of today's gospel is that Jesus is going towards Jerusalem. From chapter 9 of Luke onwards, we can see that. When he goes on to Jerusalem, he has so many people coming and meeting him. Pharisees, scribes, then so many miracles. He participates in the banquets, and there are people walking on the road with him. That means there is basically a crowd following him. And to this crowd, he is telling about discipleship. That means he is inviting from the crowd the people who are willing to follow him. But when he talks about discipleship, he is always very radical. He gives a very uncompromising perspective about discipleship. A person who came to ask him about following him after burying his father, he said, "Let the dead bury their dead." Further said that to another person to whom more is given, the more is entrusted, much more is demanded. And also he says that because of Christ, father will be against son, son will be against father. And today's gospel we see that hate father, mother, sister, brothers, wife, children, all kinds of thoughts. And again, finally he says that you give up your possessions. So these are all his statements about the discipleship. After giving a perspective about the discipleship, Jesus is giving us a strategy to count the cost of discipleship. We are already baptized Christians. All those who are baptized into the church, they are already disciples of Christ. So it is an invitation for us also to assess about our discipleship. He gives three criteria to assess the discipleship. The first one is to hate one's father, mother, brothers, sisters, wife, children, and so on and so forth. Earlier, to hate means to give up completely, to cut off all the relationship with them because of Christ. Especially that was evident when people joined a convent or a seminary. They almost cut off all their ties with them. They may visit them only once in a while. That may not be the idea that we can get it today. Today we need to understand the meaning of hate. hate, the word hate can mean comparison. In comparison to Christ, rest of the things are secondary. If Christ and his values come forefront, or if Christ and his values come in between me and my father, mother, brothers, sisters, my family or children or wife, then I should have the courage to choose Christ. Not only that, we need to prioritize our life, keeping Christ as a boundary. Whatever Christ says, I do. That is the first one. Second one, to carry one's own cross. What is the meaning of carrying one's own cross? That is to live as if condemned to death. Jesus lived his life as if he was condemned to death. It is to say that to constantly be ready to live for Christ and to die for Christ. It is to constantly seek God's will in our life and the courage to live only God's will. There may be so many other things that are proposed to us to live our life in a wonderful way. But when they contradict what Christ asks of us, we have the courage to give them up. Also to accept trials, persecutions, criticisms, humiliations like Christ did. And the third criterion to assess is to give up our possessions. My dear friends, it is very easy to live with our own resources when we have plenty. But the Lord is asking us, if those possessions are not helping us to live a life for God, we should have the courage to give them up. All these things are indicating us to reconstruct our own Christian identity. We are called to restructure the way we live our everyday life. Just think that if we are structuring and constructing our life after the pattern and desires and dreams and whims and fancies of our parents, our brothers and sisters, our own ambitions, we are just living for others without living for Christ, how much profit will we get? If we do not journey with Christ, if we do not construct our life with Christ, we will not construct. That is what we read in Psalm number 127:1. Unless the Lord builds the house, builders' labor is in vain. So whatever the life that we are trying to build without Christ, it will not help us. Unless the Lord fights for us, we will not win our battle. We are told in Exodus chapter 14:14 and Psalm number 68, we are told about it. If the Lord is with us, no one will be against us. We read in Romans chapter 8. My dear friends, all these things are calling us to give up all that we have and embrace what Christ wants us to do. Let us reconstruct our identity. Let us ask ourselves, my attitudes, my imaginations, my life, my actions, whether they follow Christ, whether they are Christ-like.